The other day I came across this landscape stake in the garage and I thought, since Halloween's coming up, I thought I would turn it into a Halloween prop. So the first thing that I did was I took it over to the chop saw and I just chopped it into pieces. And I was thinking that I could make this kind of a wooden stake for a vampire slaying kit as well as kind of a cross. So you could use it either way to either scare off a vampire with the cross or you could drive it straight into the vampire's heart. So I glued it together, sanded everything down, and as I was doing that, I thought it would be fun to make a whole vampire slaying kit, kind of as a emergency kit that you would hang on your wall. So I went over to the chop saw and chopped a couple pieces of 1x4 pine. What I really wanted was some distressed pallet wood or something like that, but I didn't have any, so I cut them down to size on the chop saw and glued up a rough box. But the thing about this is I want it to kind of look like it's been around for hundreds of years, like it's this ancient vampire slaying box or something. So I wanted to distress it, and the way that I did that was just beat the crap out of a bunch of pieces of wood, and I kind of just used all the different tools that I had in my shop, a hammer, chisels, knife, you name it, and I just kind of beat up on this wood for a while until I got kind of a distressed look and split a bunch of pieces, and then I glued in those pieces into the back of the box and shot them in place with the brad nailer. Once I had those in place, I decided to just beat the crap out of the whole box and kind of make the whole box really distressed looking. I went really heavy with the distressing. I used my razor blade and chopped off a bunch of big chunks, used my chisels to take out some chunks. I put in some big gouges, all that stuff. I wanted it to make it look like it was really, really old. And one of the ways that I really like to distress wood is to just light it on fire. One of the reasons why I like to do this, apart from the obvious charring, in this case, it burns off a lot of the kind of the little pieces that I've cut out with the knife. And also, generally, it burns the softer sapwood faster than the harder kind of grain. So it creates these kind of waves in the wood. And you can sand off a lot of the charring later, which is what I ended up doing. But it still gives you that kind of wavy texture for the wood that's been there for a long time. So, you know, maybe this case survived a fire. Maybe it was part of an old church and the church burnt down and they made this case out of it. I don't know. I just wanted to have fun with it, and I love the way that it came out. So now the case is all distressed and ready to go. I'm going to be using this Minwax Prestain wood conditioner. This is an oil-based conditioner, and because I burnt it, the wood obviously is very, very dry. So I want to make sure that I put this conditioner on there. For one, it'll kind of even out the stain and eliminate some of the blotchiness. Not super worried about that in this case, obviously, because of the variety of the color and the textures that I've created based on the distressing. But it also will soak into that wood, make sure that the stain adheres well and all that. So while that sets up, I'm going to cut a piece of acrylic that I can use as a cover case for this, as kind of a piece of faux glass, so that I can engrave it on my laser and put a fun little "In Case of Vampires Break Glass" text on it. I was able to knock that out pretty quickly, and in the meantime, the Prestain conditioner set up. So now I'm just going to be staining it with this Minwax oil-based stain. I ended up going with this early American finish, which kind of gives it a, I don't know, vintagey brown kind of color, so give it a real rustic vibe. So this is the first of 2 coats that I'm doing with this. And in the meantime, I'm going to work on some of the interior components. I found these little spice jars in the cabinet, filled it with some water and plugged it with the cork, and then I used some CA glue to glue the cork in place so that it can't slip out later if this thing gets laid on its side or whatever. So from there I went back over to the dagger cross and I brought that to the laser and designed a little engraving to go on the dagger itself. I put a little Latin biblical quote on there that's about driving out darkness. And then I also put a cross on the top, and then I put kind of a Celtic pattern on it. It doesn't really have any correlation. I just thought it kind of needed something on the actual dagger part itself, so that's what I went with. After test fitting the glass, then I can go back and just finish up the box. I'm going to be using this Minwax oil-based fast-drying polyurethane. I used this on my toolbox, and I really loved it, so it's a perfect application for this. It's going to give it a nice coat of protection, so when it gets packed away every year and then put back up, it's going to last a long time. Obviously, being distressed, this thing, the more it gets beat up, the better it's going to look. So once that polyurethane's set, I could go in and start actually installing things inside the box. So I just used some CA glue to glue in the holy water vial. Probably could have used some hot glue, but I couldn't find any at the time, so that's what I used. It worked out fine. Then I actually used a couple dowels as little spacers to keep the dagger up off the back to help kind of contrast it and give it a little bit of depth so the dagger doesn't blend in as much. Could also have maybe changed the color of the stain on the dagger or something, but I think it looks great as is, kind of all uniform. I was able to find a little cross necklace. I couldn't find a rosary, but you could also put an old Bible in here. I would like to put some fake garlic in here. Anything that could be used against vampires. So lastly, I installed the glass with a combination of these little brass-headed nails and these kind of corner decorative metal brackets that I found at Lowe's. I used some screws to put them on, but eventually I might try to swap it out with some nails if I have some. Lastly, I just put on a couple nails in the back and a piece of wire and hung this thing up on the wall. So I'm super happy with the way they came out. It's got a very authentic kind of cool vibe to it for Halloween as opposed to kind of the cheap campy stuff that's out there. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it inspired you, and good luck.